Good morning. My name is Janet McFarland. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Thank you very much. It is a good service, and I'm grateful to be able to have the opportunity to give it. We are glad you are here with us this morning, you who are on Zoom, and you who are in person, and you who are here in spirit. I personally feel the ancestors gathering. We are committed to becoming an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community. You are welcome here. If you'd like to find out more about our church, we invite you to fill out a Newcomer Connect card online. You can get to it by using the QR code that's on the card in your seat pocket, or via a link on the website, or write the information on the form in the greeting table in the foyer or the welcome table in Wendte Hall, and we will be in touch. Newcomers, Emily invites you to a 10-minute conversation. Emily is sitting there at the back. She will be here after the service, and she can answer your questions and give you a little introduction to our church. Welcome, everyone. Let's see. We acknowledge the land and the peoples who belong to the land, the Lishan Ohlone peoples. Our church, institutions, and homes are occupying their lands, which have never been ceded, which were taken from them by occupation. We acknowledge that the lands were stolen from the Ohlone peoples, who have an ancestral relationship with the land, the plants, the animals, and the water for millennia, continuous to the present day. Ohlone people are still here. In solidarity with all Indigenous people and their right to self-determination and justice, we commit toward working toward accountability for the theft and dispossession, and toward being active partners in the healing of the intergenerational trauma which persists to this day. And so may we live. Now for our announcements. That my link is not working. Okay. Great, okay. So the pledge drive update, I believe there's a slide to go with this. There we go. So we are building our tower stronger than before. The stewardship team, which is basically the Board of Trustees and a few treasured volunteers, reports that we have received over $226,000 in confirmed pledges for our 2025 stewardship pledge drive. Thanks to the 63 folks who made this possible. This is the final week of the formal pledge drive. Next Sunday, we will celebrate our work with a soup and salad potluck. All are welcome to join the celebration. But our work is not over. We need another $100,000 in pledges to meet our goal of building on a strong foundation. Your Board of Trustees, assisted by volunteers, will continue to call to urge everyone who made a pledge for 2024 to ask them to renew their pledge for 2025. The Sunday services, RE programs, and every other function of our church rely on the generosity of each and every one of us. If you have not done so, please go to the church's website and make your pledge today. Even if you have a sustaining pledge, we ask that you go to the website and confirm that. Thank you again for your support of our beloved church and congregation.
Hello. My name is Piper Swim, and I'd like to start just by inviting us into our first hymn to remember the sacred circle that encompasses us and our work this morning. Hymn number 155, Circle Round for Freedom. circle is cast. And what happens between the worlds changes all worlds.
We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all of creation, the power of love to heal what is broken, and to be grateful for life's blessings each day. Our peace candle words are from the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. Often we tell ourselves, don't just sit there, do something. But when we practice awareness, we discover something unusual. We discover that the opposite may be more helpful. Don't just do something, sit there. We must learn to stop from time to time in order to see clearly. With clarity, determination, and patience, the fruits of meditation, we can sustain a life of action and be real instruments of peace. Join me in saying, peace is possible. For our Black Lives Matter candle, I offer you the words of James Cone, who was an American Methodist minister best known for his advocacy of Black theology and Black liberation theology. We must speak out loud and clear against the evil of racism, not just for the sake of people of color, but for everyone, for our churches and theologies, for America and the world, and most of all, for humanity. Together we say, Black Lives Matter.
Thank you, Laurel. My name is Piper Swim, and I'm your worship leader today. And I'd like to start by wishing you Happy New Year. Today we celebrate Samhain, the witch's new year, a holiday of death and rebirth within a seasonal celebration framework of solstices, equinoxes, and holidays like today, the midpoints between. That's called the Wheel of the Year. In my own practice as a neo-pagan witch, this is my most sacred holiday. I am delighted to celebrate it with you today. Samhain is an ancestor of Halloween, but in ancient practice and modern day practices both, it is distinctly different. We will enjoy a rich and delightful Halloween celebration after the service in Wendte Hall. Here, we are celebrating Samhain. At Samhain, many believe that the barriers between the worlds of the living and the dead are at their thinnest, and our ancestors can hear us and even join us here, especially if we invite them. It is a pivotal moment of the year, a point on which the year pivots to a new position. The end of one year, because the last of the harvest is coming in, people in northern climates are preparing for winter chill. The hard work of that year is done, shifting. It's the beginning of a new year, one that begins in sacred darkness, the darkest quarter of the year. We are invited at Samhain to become like seeds slumbering in the earth, awaiting the spring, a sacred time of rest. And we are also gathering together 9 days before the presidential election. Yeah, can we do that together? Make a feeling sound about that. The next line was, I believe all of us have swirls of energy and feeling inside of us about this, so good job. Today we will call on the energy of Samhain to do collective work of prayer and magic to support a safe and free election on November 5th. And in one voice, let the people say, "Come, let us worship together." So, those ancestors, huh? For our time for all ages today, if you are a kid or feel like a kid or feel like getting up close and learning some cool pagan music, come on up. Yeah, that's a great spot for you, my love. This is Awen, my secret other worship associate. This is Fox, my beloved wife, and my not-so-secret other worship associate. And we are here to teach you one of our favorite chants. And the purpose of this is to call in our ancestors, meaning the ancestors who mean us well, ancestors of your lineage or of spirit, of activism, the ones that you want here. We're going to sing it once, then we're going to teach it to you. We are the ancestors of the ones yet to be, and we are the paper of the previous trees. Let everything we say and do make it all come out right, for we are the ancestors. And then it continues on in a nice little round from there. So let's break it down line by line. We are the ancestors, of the ones yet to be. And we are the paper, of the previous trees. May everything we say and do make it all come out right. May everything we say and do make it all come out right. For we do it again. All right. I'm going to sing a line. Sing it back to us, okay? Does that sound good? All right. We are the ancestors of the ones yet to be. We are the ancestors of the ones yet to be. And we are the paper of the previous trees. And we are the paper of the previous trees. May everything we say and do make it all come out right. May everything we say and do make it all come out right. For we are the ancestors of the ones left to be. Let's keep it going. And we are the paper of the previous trees. Let everything we say and do make it all come out right. For we are the ancestors before you go, the kids of you who are going, do any of you want to name an ancestor that you want to call in to be present here with us today? And by kid, I mean person who is right here. Yeah. Liam.
My boyfriend, JD.
JD. Welcome, ancestors. The rest of us will add our names in a little bit. Welcome, ancestors. And now, for those who are going on to some kid-themed fun, let's sing out with that same song. For we are the ancestors of the ones yet to be, and we are the paper of the previous trees. Yea, everything we say and do, make it all come out right. For we are the ancestors of the ones yet to be. Thank you. Now is the time in our service when I invite you to greet your neighbors here in the congregation and send greetings to those who are joining by Zoom. Hello, Zoom people, we love you. Rise if you feel so moved. If you don't want greetings today, just stay seated and make sure that if someone is sitting that they want some greetings. Which two? And now it is the time in our service for my personal favorite ritual, the long and difficult attempt to get us to stop greeting one another and return to our seats. Thank you, wonderful community. Fox has a reading for us.
Hope is not a lottery ticket you can sit on the sofa and clutch, feeling lucky. It is an axe you break down doors with in an emergency. Hope should shove you out the door because it will take everything we have to steer the future away from endless war, from the annihilation of Earth's treasures and the grinding down of the poor and marginal. To hope is to give ourselves to the future, and that commitment to the future is what makes the present inhabitable. Rebecca Solnit, Hope in the Dark.
Hope. Ancestors of our hearts, you of many names and places, we come before you today at the turning of the wheel, seeking hope. An old year ends, one that held joys and pains aplenty, one that was imperfect and joyous and crushing. We hope for something better to come. And many of us this morning are afraid. The great ritual that is the United States election looms before us, and though we want to have hope that it will be a safe and easy experience that leads to the best outcome for our country, there is such uncertainty. So many try to bar our friends and families from voting, undermine our rights in many ways, spread misinformation and hate. Ancestors of suffrage, you who lived through struggles much like ours, help us to have faith and hope that our actions in this election matter. Now, when the veil between the worlds is thin, help us to turn the wheel toward justice. I call to our ancestors who fought for just and free elections in generations past. We honor you and we seek your aid in our work today and in the 9 days before us and after. Ida B. Wells, Mary Ellen Pleasant, Jane Addams, Matilda Jocelyn Gage, Jeanette Rankin, Lucy Burns, Jane Addams, Chalice, who fought for women's suffrage. Septima Clark, Fannie Lou Hamer, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, Bayard Rustin, who fought for the right to vote for Black Americans. Unitarian and Universalist ancestors, Cliff Hoffman, Alfred Hobart, Albert Dorlando, Jim Brewer, Ed Cale, Greta Crosby, who fought alongside them. You who faced oppression and unfair restriction of your suffrage and triumphed, be with us here today. Help us in our work. We bring you in now with song. All you who have gone before, please listen now. We are listening to all you who have gone before. Join us in peace. All you who have gone before, please listen now. We are listening to all you who have gone before. Join us in peace. All you who have gone before, please listen now. We are listening to all you who have gone before. Join us in peace. Blessed be.
Mourn for the dead and fight like hell for the living. Mary Harris Jones was over 50 years old when she heard the call to activism. Out of the ruins of her dress shop after the Great Chicago Fire, she saw that, experienced that, understood that the unequal distribution of power in our country was something that she needed to stand up against. And so she became the most dangerous grandmother in the United States. Called on the floor of the Senate the grandmother of all agitators, to which she responded, "Nah, I'm the great grandmother of all agitators." And there's a complexity in bringing Mother Jones into this service talking about suffrage, because in a time when women's suffrage the women's suffrage movement was happening, Mother Jones didn't actually care about the women's suffrage movement. She didn't support, it's not that she didn't support the women's right to vote, but she didn't believe that the government that was being voted for was just. And that's also true. Our government, our system of democracy is fraught. But there is also but at the same time, we have to hold both these things true. Harm reduction. It is, when one is on the front lines, when one is in the heat of an argument, feeling in the black and white can be very cathartic, but also not particularly helpful. And so, with this ancestor, we acknowledge that difficulty and also acknowledge that, and also understand that it's not too late. So, I leave this story with another quote. Read, educate yourself for the coming struggle.
My favorite part about that story is that she's the one who's coming round the mountain when she comes. That's a protest song. At this time in our service, I invite you to speak aloud the names of those who are on your hearts. And we're going to do this in two parts. Those who you are celebrating full of joy, and those who are suffering and struggling, but are among the living. We speak these names first. At the chime, I invite you to speak the names of your beloved dead, your mighty dead, those ancestors that you want to call into our work today, until every seat is filled. Voices overlapping one another in an embracing meditation.
Let us speak the words, we hold them in our care. We hold them in our care. And now, our beloved and our mighty dead. We welcome them in our circle. We welcome them in our circle.
It's often the case that our best models are not those held up to us in grade school. And Fannie Lou Hamer is one of those. She was born in 1917 in rural Mississippi. Fannie Lou was the 20th child of a pair of sharecroppers who were living in rural Mississippi. She started working in the cotton fields at age 6, tempted in payment by sugary treats that she received for her work. She had to leave school and work full-time at age 12, despite a brilliant mind. As a young woman, she suffered an unwilling hysterectomy and countless smaller injustices. One of Fannie's greatest sources of strength was her mother, who gave her the only black doll that she had ever seen, and she could threaten a white man into leaving them alone. From her mother's bold example, she received the idea that resisting whites and injustice was possible. Then in 1962, she went to a meeting led by civil rights activists and learned for the first time that she had the right to vote. She decided to risk everything to register to vote. But the literacy test was set up to ensure that blacks failed and to collect the information of any black person who tried to register to pass along to the Ku Klux Klan. In short order, she was kicked out of her home. She suffered police raids and saw her husband jailed for a fraudulent bill, but she was not deterred. She returned to try the literacy test again, and she promised the examiner that he would see her every 30 days until she passed. And that time she did. She passed the test. Her powerful singing voice caught the attention of civil rights activists who recruited her. Jailed for her activism, she barely survived brutal abuse by white police officers. And her response was, "If them crackers in Winona thought they'd discourage me from fighting, I guess they found out different. I'm gonna stay in Mississippi, and if they shoot me down, I'll be buried here." Only months later, she helped coordinate a mock election that taught 93,000 Mississippi blacks how to vote. Wow. She ran for Congress, she founded a new political party, and agitated to be seated in the Democratic National Convention. So what happened at the hearing to determine whether her political party should be seated was very telling. 3 people spoke at the hearing: the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, a white woman whose activist husband had been murdered, and Fanny Hamer. Dr. King and the new widow talked uninterrupted on national television. But when it came time for Hamer's testimony, President Johnson literally talked over her. He interrupted the broadcast to announce the 9-month anniversary of the shooting of a senator until exactly when Hamer was done speaking. Her words were considered that dangerous. The president had sent a clear message. As civil rights activist Bob Moses put it years later, quote, "The president's not afraid of Martin Luther King's testimony. He's afraid of Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony," end quote. We're not going back. We're not going back, no. So Fannie Hamer was poor, oppressed, uneducated, disabled, a woman, and a person of color. And yet, Fannie Lou Hamer was the biggest threat in that room to those who were trying to suppress black rights. Her work contributed directly to voting access for millions of black voters, and the ripples of her life can still be felt today. Let us remember this powerful ancestor of justice, Fannie Lou Hamer. What is remembered lives.
What is remembered lives.
What is remembered lives.
All you who have gone before, please listen now. We are listening to all you who have gone before. Join us in peace. So October is a complicated time to be a witch. In no other month do people like me who identify as witches face so much attention, so many stereotypes, so many comments of, "Oh, great witch hat." Yeah, actually, this is just my regular hat and not a costume. So much conflation between our sacred New Year celebrations and a holiday that celebrates evil, scary witchcraft that's pretend. For over a decade, I worked as a preschool teacher, and every year I'd get nervous starting around mid-September because I didn't know which way the play would fall out that year. Would the playground be consumed by games of, "You're a witch, I'm gonna chase you," or "I'm a witch and I turn you into a frog," or, most rarely, "Let's fly on broomsticks and give people magic"? All of them stereotypes. It's hard. There are so many movies that I loved as a kid that I haven't shown my little 4-year-old that you saw earlier yet because she loves being a witch. And those movies almost universally show that witches are mean, evil villains who are pretend. I'm not asking you to throw away your green-faced, pointy-hatted decorations and costumes. It's a fun part of the holiday. What I am grateful for right now is that we have this little time to consider the reality beneath them. First of all, beyond the realm of Halloween decor, the term witch often means a practitioner of Wicca, which is just one branch of an emerging religious tradition called neo-paganism. Surveys a decade ago by Trinity College and the Pew Research Center found that people in the US identifying their religion as Wicca rose from 8,000 in 1990 to between 1 and 1.5 million in 2014. Let me say again that Wicca is one branch of neo-paganism. Neo-pagans live in every state, and there are witches, hidden or not, engaged everywhere in activism. Many of us believe that it is the part of the witch to walk with, stand with, be with the marginalized, the disenfranchised, and use our magic to support them and each other. Much like Unitarian Universalists, we try to make our will manifest in the world for the good of the earth and our common creatures. So here we are on Samhain. This is a pagan holy day. It's our biggest holiday of the year. There's a lot of overlap between what Halloween celebrations will cover on Thursday and what thousands of us witches will do at rituals like the spiral dance ritual in Berkeley this afternoon. Literal thousands of witches will gather. We will revel in the darkness, greeting the beginning of the darkest quarter of the year with that mixture of joy and hindbrain concern. We'll dress up in fantastic and glorious costumes that were once part of Celtic pagan practices to confuse hostile spirits. We'll remember that maybe magic is real. Witches forget sometimes too, and there's no better time than Samhain to remember. So let's play with remembering and cast a spell together. Can we try that? It'll have a lot in common with prayer or intense meditation, which are also ways of focusing your will toward a cause. Magic is often defined as will made manifest. So here are the steps to our spell. First, we'll name why we're doing magic, what we hope to achieve. We'll ask the ancestors we've called in to help us. We'll use a common mode of raising energy to cast the spell. This time, for this community, it'll be raising our voices in song. We ready? Well, let's get started. So first, for any spell, you need a purpose. My teacher, Starhawk, says that you should never work magic or hold any ritual without a clear purpose. With the election looming so soon, how about some election magic? Hey! Now, I don't mean magic to help a particular candidate win. I'm actually not about that. I have my opinions, but I don't care who you're planning to vote for. What I care is that you can vote safely and that your vote will be counted. So here's the purpose of our spell: to help the election on November 5th be safe, free, and fairly include everyone who wishes to vote. Can we get behind that? Yes. All right. Wait, can we get behind that? Yes. All right. You're probably already aware that there's more voter suppression all over the country this year than we've seen in decades. If you already know a story of people struggling to vote this year, call it to mind. Open your heart to the feelings that arise in you thinking about that story. And if you don't know a story like that, you can borrow mine. Last Friday, I was running a role-playing game for a group of players all across the world because I have the best day job ever. Across the US, Denmark, Israel, and Australia, we gathered, we started sharing stories of how our weeks had gone in between last session and this one. And it turned out pretty quickly. We discovered that every one of the 7 of us was worried about the US election. Then one of us, my player Sai in Atlanta, who offered to let me share their story, told about how things are getting intense there. Some people smashed the mailboxes in front of their apartment complex. Why? We all asked. We think they were after our ballots, they say. I was lucky, mine got picked up the day before, so I know my vote got counted, but my neighbor thinks her ballot is gone. It turned out that Cy and their neighbors had decided to put their ballots in their own mailboxes in the first place instead of the fancy ballot boxes, to use their words, because people have taken to wearing fake vests and pretending to be election workers and trying to intimidate people in Atlanta to hand their ballots over to them instead of putting the ballots in the boxes. We were all shocked. How do we respond? I wasn't prepared for that. I've lived most of my life under the height of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that made a lot of the tactics being used this year illegal. That is, from my birth until 2013. This year, new voter suppression laws are taking effect all over the country, prompting even more illegal voter suppression tactics like those. This is a hard election to watch. One candidate's former chief of staff just said on the record that that candidate meets the definition of a fascist. Millions of people I don't know, some that I do, and especially people of color, are scared to go to their polling places on Tuesday. They use absentee ballots to avoid being blocked from voting in states that still allow absentee voting. Their mailboxes are smashed. Their ballots may be lost. People in hurricane zones in North Carolina, meanwhile, may never get their ballots because they don't have mail service and their polling places were swept away in the floods. So yeah, things are getting intense. How do we feel about that?
Nervous.
Yeah, not good. Nervous. Angry. Outraged. Scared. Terrified. So how do we respond? I love magic. Magic is good, but it's not everything. Would you mind moving to the next slide? Up on your screen, you'll see a list of actions you can take in the next 9 days. And if those are a little bit tiny, they are just reflecting this handout that you can find on our altar. They're also in this flyer you can take home. I'll highlight one of them. Ask who around you might need support to vote safely. This year especially, ask elders, people of color, people living with disabilities. They are all facing new barriers to voting. You might say, hey, I'm wondering if there's any support you need around voting this year. Do you want to talk about that? Ask young people and people working low-wage, long-hours jobs like baristas and waiters whether they'll vote. Connect with rural friends about it. Sometimes it just takes knowing that someone cares about whether they vote to make that extra effort to go to the polls. So what's one action that you want to take in the next 9 days? And we also do magic. There are hundreds of different approaches to how to do magic in modern neo-paganism, some of them full of tradition and rigid structure, some entirely improvisational. This time today, we remember these ancestors here with us who fought for voting access and ask them to lend a little of their power to steady us and support our magic. And this is why. So when I heard Cy's story, I did not know how to respond. All of the fears that I'm holding, that we might be sliding into a fascist state, that things might just keep getting worse from here, filled up my head. I think a lot of us are holding those fears right now. And in the middle of that scared and confused feeling, an old voice from a scratchy audio recording echoed in my head. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And I remembered that we've been here before. 60 years ago, today, right now, hundreds of brave and powerful and talented and completely ordinary but fed up people who had decided to risk stepping up, including the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who made that quote famous, were fighting the last week of a concerted battle so that Black people could exercise their legal right to vote on November 3rd, 1964. Against overwhelmingly worse conditions than we are facing in 2024, they were blazingly effective. We went from about 5 million Black votes cast in the 1960 presidential election to more than 20 million in 1964, the year before the voter suppression laws keeping Black people from the ballots were made illegal. And this is far from the only battle like this we have faced. A little over 100 years ago, so many more brave and wise people won women's suffrage through another intense, decades, centuries-long battle. Most of these ancestors, these mighty dead, faced retaliation, severe. Some died during their fights. Every one of them helped make our 2024 election more fair. So, ancestors, help us to remember that we who love justice have been here before and that we have prevailed. Help us to believe that the moral arc is still bending toward justice. As we benefit from your bravery, let us remember our descendants who will benefit from ours. Help us to make it so with our actions. And I ask you to imagine, just for a moment or two, that the ancestors we've called in today are here in the sanctuary with us. Do you feel them? Maybe hear a whispered voice. Feel a presence in that empty chair. What if you know that that ancestor is here to help you? And you also can just call to mind the ancestor you named or another ancestor whose name you heard. Remember what you know of their story. Their memory with no mystical element tied to it will still help to power the work ahead of us. So who do you invite to support you right now in this moment for this purpose of a safe, free, and fair election? A common purpose, some wise allies. Now we're ready for what's called the heart of the ritual, the magic working core. Through both of these great protest eras, our ancestors of suffrage, these mighty dead, used collective singing to raise energy. Stephen Brackett, a modern Black activist and hip-hop MC, also called Brer Rabbit, cites 4 reasons why we did this in the past and still need to do it today. Singing together helps us unite in common purpose. It connects us with history of ancestral protests that have come before us. It conveys our message in a succinct and impactful form that helps us to connect with our passions. And singing brings energy and spirit and joy to our gatherings. In a spell, you can use candles and incense and crystals. We, for our ritual tool, will use song. And last, in a protection ritual like this, the magic needs a place to go to. So if you know what your polling place looks like, I invite you to picture it now in your mind's eye. Call up as much detail as you can. Otherwise, choose a place you can visualize that needs safety and protection on November 5th. As we sing, you'll picture our song wrapping around that place in layers of protective, calming energy. Now, as you are willing and able, rise and join me in singing this magic into being through the first verse of our very first hymn. We'll sing it through once with our piano accompaniment to guide us, and then again and again as a chant, a prayer, a spell. Hymn number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
Go by. May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. May nothing evil cross this door, and may fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. May nothing evil cross this door, and may fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by.
Take the last pieces of that energy that you wish to send, gather them up, feel them in your hands. And on the count of 3, we're going to toss them where they need to go. 1, 2, 3. That's how real witches do spells. Thank you.
There are so many ways to support and participate in the life of this congregation. So one of the ways is to show up on Sundays. So thank you very much for showing up as you have today. And also to be aware of the various activities and ministries we engage in together. So here are today's announcements. Make sure that you stay after the service today in Wendte Hall. So join us for a potluck, intergenerational games, and a Halloween parade in the plaza. I think you probably know that daylight savings time will be ending next Saturday night, and we will magically gain an hour of sleep. Woohoo! So get ready to turn your clocks back an hour next Sunday. So let's take this week to prepare for the change so we don't miss any important appointments or come to church an hour early next Sunday wondering where everyone is. And then, as Piper has reminded us, not that we need reminding, election season is upon us. And some of you may be seeking a place to be with community. And so the day after the election, I will be holding some special extended office hours. You're welcome to join me from noon to 4 on Wednesday, the day after the election, in the Star King room. So all we'll do is just be together in community, lean into one another for courage and for hope. So besides showing up, another way to support this congregation is by sharing your treasure. I don't know about you, but I care deeply about the future of this congregation. It inspired both me and my son Marcus to become Unitarian Universalist ministers, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be serving you now. during this time of rebuilding on our strong foundation. So once a year, the congregation holds a pledge drive to raise money to keep the lights on and pay our staff and all the other expenses associated with keeping this historic urban church alive and thriving. I've already made my pledge for this year and hope that you will feel inspired to make yours too if you haven't already. And then we also have an opportunity each Sunday to make a contribution during the offertory, either to the baskets as they pass, or in a moment a slide will be on the screen to show you other ways to donate. So we will be sharing half of our collections for the months of September, October, and November with the Segura Te Land Trust, an urban, indigenous, women-led land trust that's based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And its mission is to facilitate the return of indigenous land to indigenous people. So now will the ushers please come forward to receive the offering. And could you put the slide on, Emily, for how to donate? Maybe the next one. Thank you.
What if we learned one more chant? Sure? Okay. Fox, you available?
Sure.
Great. This is called We Are the Rising Sun, which witches can't agree on anything, but if we could agree on anything, this might be our protest anthem.
We could?
Maybe.
Okay.
We are the change. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the rising sun.
Join in when you feel ready to.
We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. change. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the rising sun. We are the change. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the rising sun.
Feel free to rise if you want to.
We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the rising sun. We are the change. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the rising sun. We are the change. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the rising sun.
Let's do one more.
We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the rising sun.
Thank you. Now we farewell these ancestors that we have called in together. Please speak the names of those that you called in once more. Technical difficulties.
Ida B. Wells, Mary Ellen Pleasant, Jane Addams, Matilda Jocelyn Gage, Jeanette Rankin, Lucy Burns, Jane Addams, Zidkala Sa, Septima Clark, Fannie Lou Hamer, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, Bayard Rustin, Cliff Hoffman, Alfred Hobart, Albert Orlando, Jim Brewer, Ed Cahill, Greta Crosby.
All you who have gone before, we thank you for your teachings.
All you who have gone before, go now in peace. All you who have gone before, we thank you for your teachings. All you who have gone before, go now in peace. And thrice makes a spell. All you who have gone before, we thank you for your teachings. All you who have gone before, go now in peace.
Go now in peace.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And we have one final closing song. Very appropriately, as we cast a sacred circle, we've been in sacred space, as we hope that our will be manifest with magic. And let us now join in singing our final hymn, which is Break Not the Circle.
Still
The circle is open,
but unbroken.
but unbroken. May the peace of the goddess go ever in your hearts. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Blessed Samhain, and don't forget to pick up your suggested actions at the altar.